this news was interesting, and it's kind of going to be hard to gauge what the ramifications are, and more so what this means. But Marvel Comics got a new distributor. Okay, let me see if I can blow this up just a little bit. But they got a new distributor, and for the longest, Diamond has had a monopoly on the distribution when it comes to comics. Not a monopoly. That's not a. You could call it that, but basically they've dominated this space. Like the fact that there was just one main distributor didn't ever make a lot of sense to me. But we saw the beginning of the pandemic, DC cut ties with Diamond. And I think Diamond had closed down, then they reopened. And but yeah, DC had completely dipped. And now we see that Marvel, as reading here, says Marvel Comics is making a similar transition. Marvel announced plans to shift its direct market distribution of Penguin Random House of a multi-year partnership starting October the 1st. Penguin Random House will begin distributing Marvel's monthly comics and graphic novels to comic shops. Hatchet Book Club will continue to handle distribution to the bookstore market. This is what they had to say. Marvel's entire history is built on telling great stories. It was built on that, sure. Are you doing it now? Absolutely not. And as we've seen for decades, those stories go hand in hand with equipping the comic shops who share them. Marvel and Penguin Random House stand by that vision, and we are excited to build and expand upon these opportunities. Those opportunities for our talent. And this is coming from Marvel President Dan Buckley. Comics are the core of the Marvel Universe, and we are confident that this new partnership will continue to grow and evolve this resilient industry. It is a resilient industry. A lot of you guys are ruining it. We look forward to advancing our capabilities. They serve our fans and direct market. We thank Diamond for many years of support and partnership, blah, blah, blah. So they reached out. They couldn't find anything. Diamond has been Marvel's exclusive direct market distributor since 1997. It's a long time. I was 7 years old, bro. In response to favorite post from retailer Brian Hibbs, Nelson wrote, he says, I can say surely as a this is those raised by what? Marvel's transition toward Penguin Random House may raise new concerns about Diamond's long-term future. Absolutely. Says I can say purely as a private individual that Diamond has for a long time been unwilling or unable to modernize and support and grow the biz as needed for a healthy direct channel. Okay. It may not even be solvent. It will be imprudent, for any publisher to not have a distribution contingency plan. Okay, so that's interesting. Oh, I should press play on that. I wonder what they're saying the best comics of the decade are. How much you want to bet Jane Foster's store? Maybe I do. This is IGN, by the way. Jane Foster's store is on there. A bunch of dog crap. New 52 trash. Anyway, so we've been making that point for a very long time. The distribution, and whether it comes with Diamond or anybody really, had been, dare I say, for lack of better terms, it's just not up to date. It's outdated. Diamond's an example of you do something, you have your foot in the door, and you've been like the guy for a very long time. It's the blockbuster effect, where you feel like, well, my foot's in the door, I ink these deals, nothing's gonna happen to me until something happens to you, right? And this is why it's always important to pay attention to the market and to respond accordingly. It doesn't matter what it is you're doing. This is something that can be of advice to you no matter what it is that you're doing. If you're at the top, you don't get comfortable, bro. And this is what so many people have done, not just in the comic book industry, in a lot of different places, where they feel like they just can't be topped and nobody can pivot from them because we just been there with best in. It's some of that may kind of have to do with the COVID thing. I think a lot of that exposed kind of the industry and the the issues with it. Maybe it accelerated. I know a lot of people alluding to that. Like it kind of sped things up. It just showed what the issues were, and it sped things up. But this was an inevitable thing that was going to happen because they didn't pivot. I will say Marvel. We can look at Diamond, and this is the different, I guess, perspective that I have. We can always look at Diamond. Look at Diamond, and we can say, yeah, they messed up. They have an update like this, like Mr. Brian Hibbs is saying. They were not trying to actually grow this market. They weren't in the interest of adjusting their policies or adjusting their approach in order to ensure that this medium grows, right? And my thing is, I think this is also telling with the market itself, because a lot of people are realizing, definitely with like these independent creators, are realizing that there's a lot that you can do within your own capacity that you just couldn't do or you didn't know about, right? It's like the music industry is this is the example that I use all the time, and how there was independence, right? But ever so often, that person that was independent selling like tapes, if I'm from the South, that's people selling tapes out the trunk. That was the thing that people did, rap in the rap game, having not been signed to anybody or anything. But, they hit to a certain point and then they always went major, right? And what you have seen in recent years with the music industry is that so many independent people are like being able to, like when the Macklemore thing popped off, say what you will about him as a MC, I don't think he's any good, but you get what I'm saying. Or Chance the Rapper or stuff like that, where people were just like making moves having not went through the usual channels. And that to me is the main topic here, because things have been flipped on its head, right? And things have changed, and Marvel isn't, and DC isn't completely oblivious to it. Dudes are able to have whole entire companies shipping books out of the house, bro. You know what I'm saying? And it's not as difficult as it may again. And it's not that option wasn't there. I think just people weren't privy to it. They just weren't aware that was a thing that you could do. The comic book industry is about to, and has been really, I think we're at the beginning stage, is seeing kind of a revolution right now that is going to impact the big two. It's not just with distribution. I think the distribution aspect of it is just an aspect of it. It's only like a kind of a thing that is just part of it, where you're seeing these companies start to pivot and make adjustments because that's what they're going to have to do. But it's going through this kind of revolutionary period because the content isn't necessarily as good, but people are wanting books. They're thirsty for it. And you're seeing these independent artists do their thing. You got the manga and anime stuff. In that case, most of the manga that's growing in the West. Like it's going through this odd phase right now, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens on the other side of it. I know it sounds insane when you consider that Marvel and DC right now, particularly Marvel with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is just, you think they just can't do any wrong. Okay. And I get that. I totally understand that. But you have to envision a world where they're not at the top. And I know that sounds crazy. Probably sound crazy when MySpace was the thing and people were like, I don't think this is going to be the thing forever, or Blockbuster. Now, maybe not from the movie standpoint. I mean, they have Disney, like Marvel having Disney, that kind of, they can use other ways and other things that they have to subsidize that market. But I'm talking about books. I'm talking about just straight books. Some changes are among us, and I'm interested to see what happens on the other side. Do the big two pivot on how not just how they're putting books out, the content, Or are we going to start seeing some independent guys? And I'm not talking like a Dark Horse or Image. I'm talking about like not that. I'm saying, are we going to see people that are having their own thing start to rise to the point to where they're legitimately competitive? It doesn't mean they're going to necessarily dethrone, but it's like you got to, when you talk comic books, you have to talk about this new thing or this book. It's going to be interesting. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.